Okay, so if you remember in the last video, we were having an issue with the view. So basically what was happening is that if I click on new post and I select an image and I choose it, it basically stucks the view. So it's no more functional. Although you can click on home feed and this button is working, but the UI is all messed up and then it is not going back and forth. So basically, what's going on is that the view on its own, the constraints are being violated because since we are using a vertical stack inside our user profile view, it only can accommodate a limited space. Okay. So we cannot just keep on adding views and views because since we are adding an image picker, the image here inside the view, it actually pushes the other items to the top and to the bottom. So that is why it's creating that issue. So one thing we can do is that we can stop the app for now. We can add a scroll view here, and here we can add a spacer, and this spacer would have a frame with a height of like 100 pixels or something, 100 points. So if I just run the app now, hopefully this should fix the issue, and the UI looks okay to us as well. So yeah, this is scrollable. And if I click on the new post, and anyways, we had to make that view scrollable because in the future we would actually need to add post down here. So users can scroll down and see their own post. So yeah, this is working all fine now. So this was one thing, and we can close the app for now. Now I just quickly wanted to add one new color that again I found out from this design website. So basically we can just copy this whole thing out, and it is a shade of blue, so it would be lightish blue, and you will get to know why we're adding this, and we would use it soon enough. For the hex code, it would be 0 cross 81 D0 E9. So this is there. Now what we do is that we go inside our auth view because I felt that there's some scope of improvement here. So what I was noticing is that for our text fields, we're actually repeating some of this stuff again and again. So what we can do here is that we can add a custom modifier basically. So this thing that you see is actually a modifier in SwiftUI. So similarly, we can club few things together and add them inside a modifier so that we can use that modifier and we need not to repeat the whole uh, 10 lines of code again and again. So this is a basic optimization. So you can just go at the very bottom of the screen and we can add struct custom text field modifier. And about this, I was about to say that right now we are writing it here, but we would actually move it to its own separate file. So custom text field modifier, and we see that some of our text fields have white, or yeah, so some of them have white or not. For the action button, let's just go to a text field. So the background is clear in some and the background is white in some. So what we can do here is that we can have a color parameter. So this is there. Now it complains that it does not conform, so we just do this. No, this is not the right way to do that. We can just add a function actually, which would be body and content, and this should actually okay, now it's complaining for the function. That is fine. I mean, we can work around with it. We can write content here and hopefully this should work. Uh, yep. So this is there. So what are the things that we need to add inside our custom text field modifier, which can be, which is common across all of these text fields actually. So one thing I notice is that is the foreground color, I believe. The foreground color is very consistent in all of them. We won't actually tweak the password text field because it has its own functionality for now with the whole edge stack thing going on. So we do have a field for username and email. So we see that foreground color is common, font is common, padding is there, then corner radius is there. So we can start by adding some foreground color. And since we are adding it here, in the future it would be easier for us to use it somewhere else, and we would not need to repeat those lines of code. So it is a good optimization in a way. So we add the custom font, then we add the padding. Similarly, in the same manner we have added in the text field. So we add the padding, then we can have a background. The background will get the color property because we have defined the argument here, and since in the username text field the color is consistent to be clear, but in our email text field it's changing based on a value. So you can just pass this thing here in the argument of our custom text modifier. So this is there. Then we can add the overlay. The overlay would be a rounded rectangle. It would have a corner radius of 10, and then it can have a stroke, which would be, the stroke should be dot black, and a line width of about 4 pixels. So this is there. Auto capitalization, let's say where it is, it needs to be none. And then we have disable auto correction. Disable auto correction would be true. So these things are there, and what we can do now is that we can write an extension on the view type, the view that you see here. So extension view, and we can write the function custom text field field style, and it would take in a color which would be of the type color as defined by SwiftUI. It gives us some view, and what we can do is that we can use self dot modifier, and this modifier would be our custom text field modifier, which would have a color property, passing it again color. So this is there. Now what we can do is let's just write one more, or we can just shift this entire thing onto its own custom file. So inside custom we create a new file, and we call this custom text field modifier. Enter. We can add import SwiftUI. So this is there. Now what we can do is similarly we can create a new file for custom button modifier, and click on create. Again we can import SwiftUI here. Now here we would write it in a similar manner. So a structure which would be custom button modifier, and then we would have a view modifier, and this view modifier again we will take in a background color which would be of the type color with a default value of white here. And because if we just go back to our auth view, so if we see the action button, the background color here is okay, so the background color here is changing, and for the toggle button the background color here is consistent. So instead of passing down the background color every time, we gave it a value, like we gave it a value as in a default value. So either the user chooses to not pass it, I mean not the user, I mean us. So if we either choose to not pass in, it's fine, either way it works fine. So we can just go back, and here we added a custom We can do the similar thing with the color inside our custom text modifier as well, but then I think that it's not needed, since I was thinking to make the style consistent. And similarly, for we have an email text field, the background color would be kind of same for the username field as well. So that is why I'm not giving it a default value there. And also for buttons, I mean, the buttons are pretty um, are being used more, I would say. Like even for the sign out view, we have a custom button. So that there also we could use it. So that is why I'm not um, thinking of making it consistent all across. So that is why we have a default value here for a fallback basically. So use fonts dot bold and size 18 again, since we had in the buttons. We can have a font weight, so we don't really need a font weight again, my bad, because we are already using a custom font. For foreground color we can have black, and we can have some padding. Then we can have a frame, which would be max width dot infinity. But again, you know that you can give it a custom frame, so that is fine. We can have a background, and the background would actually have the background color. And then we can have a corner radius of 10. Then we can have an overlay, and this overlay would include a rounded rectangle, similarly to our custom text field actually. And this would have 10 as corner radius dot stroke. The color would be black, and then it would have line width of 2 pixels, so that is there. And similarly we would again write an extension on the view class basically. And I think the view is not a class, it's a struct. Let's just check. It's a protocol first of all. So okay, yeah, it's a protocol. So body view, let's just see. Yeah, it's a protocol, neither class nor a struct. We create a function, we call it custom button style. It takes in a color which would be of the type color, and it has a default value of white. And then we can pass in some view. We open this up. Now we can write, sorry about that, we have self dot modifier. And what does this self dot modifier do? We can check this out as well. So it applies a modifier to the view and returns the new view. So that is what it's doing. And we can have the custom button modifier, and the custom button modifier will take in a background color argument, which would be color. This is there. So now that we have done this much, we can just go back to our auth view. Inside our auth view, we would go to our let's just go to our email text field or username text field. So we can start with the email text field, and it would have a keyboard type obviously because it's specific to email. But then we don't need all of this. And now we can just add a custom text field style. And the custom text field style, it asks for a color. So for the color, I think we can add that a boolean logic, or either we can have, okay, we can do that. So what was it before? Just quickly checking this out. So it was this. We can just remove all of this. We can have custom text field style, paste it here. This is done. Now for the username text field, we don't really have a keyboard type, so we can just remove all of this. And then we can have the custom text field style. And for the color, we can again add this. So this is there. Although it doesn't make much sense, because show sign in view, the username field would not show up. It would sign in with email and password. So either way it's fine. But now you can see that how concise the code has become. Like it's literally 3 lines of code now. So this is what I was aiming for. And this is there, and what we can do now is that we can move forward with our post creation and everything. So we can go inside the main view model and add database calls for fetching posts because we are already creating them. And also we have already created a post struct, so that makes things easier for us. But right now, as you can see, we are hard coding a lot of values, so we would need to add published var properties for all of them. So that is one thing that we need to complete. And then we would move to the UI part, and basically we'll create a whole create post view which would be launched via the new post button we have on the user profile. So that is there. So I hope to see you in the next video. And again, if you have any doubts, you could just leave them down in the comments. I would be very happy to help you. Thank you for watching this, and I hope to see you in the next video.